there. Let's go now to that hearing. The closing arguments at the moment in the federal court case this week brought by two traditional owners who are suing the federal government for, quote, failing in its duty of care to protect their ancestral lands from the impacts of climate change. Now, somewhat ironically, Stephen Lloyd SC, acting for the Commonwealth, told the court that Australia has no control over global climate change, saying that, quote, we control Commonwealth emissions to some extent. The risk of harm is global climate change. For more on this, I'm joined now by the Environment Editor for The Australian, Graham Lloyd. Well, hello. We've waited a long time to understand that Australia doesn't have a temperature gauge of its own, that we are part of a global climate. But take us through the ramifications, if you can, Graham. What will happen if this case is successful?
Well, good evening, Peter, and it is a remarkable and refreshing concession from the Commonwealth. But this case is really part of a broader international push, if you like, in the sort of lawfare front and climate change. It's trying to get the courts to supervise governments and to insist that they put their climate policies in line with, they say, the science, which really means to be in line with achieving a global temperature rise limit of 1.5 degrees. We saw a case recently in Sweden where the European court found that the Swedish government had been negligent in not doing enough. We now have this case in the Torres Strait where there may be some compensation that's sought, but the bigger issue for environment groups is to get that court supervision of how the government frames its policies.
Look, just before we go off this issue, Eraring announced this week or speculated this week it's meant to close next year. It may run on for another 4 years plus, 150 million a year, we're told. Remind everyone at home, what's going to happen if Eraring just closes down as planned next year?
Well, it's becoming increasingly obvious that the electricity system is fragile, that the baseload supplies from coal generation in particular are going to need to be there for longer than people had expected to hold it all together. So as we've discussed over several months, the New South Wales government really has a gun to its head as it negotiates with the owners of Eraring. The estimates are now that it will cost $150 million a year to keep it operating. Those figures haven't been decided, but the alternative is almost too bleak to compensate, to consider.
Yeah, it's shocking. We're on tenterhooks there in New South Wales, certainly. Graham Lloyd, thank you.